So I just bought this cool 2012 Kia Soul. I'm a big fan of Kia Souls. I've done some reviews of Kia Souls on my channel. This particular model is a Plus model, and it happens to have a nifty little feature, which is standard on most cars nowadays, as the backup camera. Well, in this case, when you put it in reverse, something terrible happens. All you get is a black screen, which should show you what is behind you, and instead, you get this ladder with 3 different colors on it, right? Well, this is a good indicator, not the only indicator, but a possible indicator that your rear camera is toast. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace it and do it super cheap. So let's get started. Your first step is to remove the 2 screws that are holding on this black back panel on your tailgate. So here's the first one. So grab a Phillips screwdriver and take that screw out, and then across the way from there is the second one. Go ahead and take that Phillips screw out. Then the rest of this, grab a hold of it, like right here, and give it a hard yank, and it should just pop off at that point. As you can see here, this is the only thing besides those 2 screws that's holding this panel in place. Next step, open up your tailgate, and through one of these 2 ports, reach up inside, and you'll see that there are 2 plastic nuts that are holding on your camera. You want to remove both of these. In my case, I used a 1/2-inch socket. Next step, we want to disconnect the camera from the car, and you're going to use this disconnect right here. So put your thumbnail right here in the middle. See that little piece moving? Press it in, and then the connector pulls right out. Next, grab a hold of the camera and pull the unit away from the vehicle, and grab the cable that goes along with it, because everything else that we do to repair this is going to happen in the house or in your shop. Next, head on over to your favorite workbench where you're going to need some tools and supplies. The first thing you'll need to do is purchase one of these auto waterproof cameras. And this actually goes into a car. It's designed for a car. It's a very generic thing. It was only $13 online, and I'll put a link to this particular camera down in the description in case you want to pick one up. Hopefully this or something like it will be available by the time you're ready to purchase. Next thing you'll need is some kind of a saw drill bit device like this one. I'm not a tools guy. I'm not sure what this thing is called, but here's what the tip looks like. And you're going to need one that is 3/4 inch or 19 millimeters. Next thing is some solder to go with your soldering iron. You're going to need that to connect the new wires to your old wiring harness. And then you're going to need some scissors or wire cutters to cut wires with. I use these channel locks to hold the camera in place as I was doing the drilling. So that or some kind of a vise or something will work. You'll need some wire strippers to strip the ends of the old wires and the new wires. You'll need some kind of a 12-volt power supply to power your new camera and test it. And in my case, I'm using a rigged up little monitor here that I have on my workbench that used to be part of a DVD player for a car. And I have wired in a composite and audio cable into it. In your case, you just need something, some kind of TV or monitor that accepts this type of video plug. This is known as composite video. So that will work for you as well. Even some modern TVs have that type of connector still on it. If so, wheel that big old TV into your workbench area. All right, now the rest of this project, I did not video chronicle it. I just took pictures. So let's go through it step by step. Some other tools you're going to need to add to your arsenal to start this project are a drill, shrink tubing, and a lighter to shrink the shrink tubing. Our first step is to remove the square metal housing off the back of the camera. There are 4 screws that are holding it in place.
In my case, I couldn't remove them. They just simply stripped out when I tried to turn them. So the housing itself is not needed in this project, so feel free to destroy it to get it off the back here. And again, it's made out of metal, so you can't really hurt anything. So remove these 4 screws if you can. Next, remove these 4 screws if you can. Now, with all the fiddling with that housing, my front cover fell off. And that's what these 4 screws hold on. It's the plastic piece on the front of the camera that's the same color as your car. So we want to remove the metal housing and the front cover. And here's why we want to remove that cover, is you'll see here there are some real nasties underneath. This thing looks like it was stored in a cave for 300 years. I don't know why it looks like that, but it's pretty hideous. And if you wondered why the camera wasn't working in my car, maybe this has something to do with it. This is absolutely awful. What happened here, I do not know. But that circuitry right there and the camera module will come out of there. And that's what we need to do next. This is what the housing looks like once it's removed. Again, you don't need this part, but I didn't know that at this point in the project, so I hung on to it. So let's get that camera module out. Just use your finger or a screwdriver and push the lens out. In my case, I had to use a flathead screwdriver and a hammer and beat on it a little bit, and then it finally fell out, and look at this nonsense that fell out. It's ridiculous. Next thing, I want to clean up these things, clean up the housing, clean up the front cover. And what I did is put it in a solution of white vinegar and baking soda and left it soak there for a while, and then took a toothbrush and just kind of scrubbed it up best I could. It didn't have to be perfect. So here's the module, the metal housing, the metal frame, and it's ready to drill. So let's do that next. So take your drill bit that looks like a saw and stick it in the hole there. Drill it from the back side forward and drill it all the way through the front. It might take a little bit to do this. Now in my case, the camera itself came with one of these drill bits, but I dulled it before I got it done. So I had to go out and buy this cool Linux one. So when you're done, you should have a nice big hole in the front that your camera will snap right into. You'll also want to drill the front cover. Now this cover here, I actually put it back onto the housing, just held it together and drilled it through so that the hole went straight from the housing all the way through the front of this cover. And the holes are aligned. Next, go ahead and insert your camera. It should snap right into place as you see here. This is the back side, and you'll see the camera coming out the back and through that hole that we drilled. Our next step is to power up and view the camera. We want to see what it's doing. Now, the reason we want to do this is the camera could be upside down, it could be tilted left or tilted right. So apply those 12 volts and connect the composite video cable to your monitor. You can reattach the cover at this point if you'd like. I had to super glue mine back on. I used super glue gel to do that part. All right, so the alignment is going to look like this. So again, your camera is sitting on a flat surface and an even surface, and it's pointed towards my laundry room. And I used the ceiling right there, those rafters, I guess you'd call them, to align the camera and get it as straight across as I could. It doesn't have to be perfect. Next, let's go ahead and cut off the plugs on both of the wires. Now, you'll want to do them one at a time, and in this case, let's just do the power plug so that we can keep that separate. Now, I also used shrink tubing, so if you're going to use shrink tubing, you need to put that onto the wires before you tin them and before you solder them together. So this is going to be the black and red wires that are on your wiring harness. Now, the wiring harness part, or the plug there that goes with the car, that particular part doesn't have to be cut down this low, but that's what I happen to do in this case. So if you need some soldering skills, watch a video on YouTube on how to do soldering. But go ahead and solder the wires together and put the shrink tubing over them. And then use a bigger piece of shrink tubing to cover the whole thing, which is what I did here. Next, let's do the video. So cut the video cable off, the video plug, I should say, And then let's go ahead and hook the yellow and black wires together. So you'll do yellow to yellow and black to white on the Kia Soul plug. After you've soldered them, go ahead and put some shrink tubing over the part that you see here. Now we have a camera that's ready to go. So the other thing that I did is I took my soldering iron and I went around the edges of it there. I don't know if you can see it, but I just kind of melted the plastic together to keep moisture from getting inside there. Now again, this is a waterproof camera, so it's not a big deal. You don't have to do this step, but it also kind of helps to hold the housing together. There was a gasket you removed at the beginning of your project, and you'll want to go ahead and put that back on. I put a couple of little dots of super glue on there to just kind of hold it in place and keep it centered. Next, reattach your camera to the car and replace the 2 nuts that hold it on.
The instructions aren't going to tell you this, but I found it on Amazon's website. This is a front view camera. In order to make it a rear view camera, we need to clip this white wire right here. Seems kind of crazy, but this is what you do. Take your scissors and clip that white wire, and you should be good to go. That green wire is for the lines that appear on the screen to guide you, and on this Kia, the guide lines are already there.
At this point, you can reattach the cover that goes on your tailgate.
Here is the new camera mounted nicely on my Kia Soul. Once you finish your installation, this is now what you should be seeing on your screen. What is behind your car?
And that's it. You did it. You've installed your new backup camera. Well, hopefully this video was helpful to you. If so, please subscribe. Share this video with a friend. You can follow me on all of my social media. It's all down in the description of this video. Thank you to my Patreon patrons. You can Patreon me if you'd like. Also, that address is down below. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.